Hello, everyone. This is Ariel here with Peak Vitality Fitness, and the conversation that we're going to be having today is going to be very interesting, very unique, and you're going to see how we are basically tying in poker, spirituality, and fitness. And how do they all tie in? You are going to find out. So I have the privilege of speaking with David Richards. He is a professional poker player and a spiritual teacher and alchemist. And he has the intention of bringing more conscious awareness for everyone he speaks with. He has a YouTube channel, and even though you may not fully understand poker, like I don't, you will see how a lot of what he speaks on brings a lot of wisdom and practical tools for our everyday life. So in this conversation, we are speaking on just that. So sharing a little bit about his own personal and spiritual journey, as well as how this all relates to fitness, because it all is connected. So Dave, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. So let's share a little bit about your own personal journey, where you started, where your spiritual journey has led you, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for having me. And I want to thank you also for your mission, because we're kind of both on the same mission, although in different respects. You know, it's taking something that is just exists, you know, like fitness, and using it to create something bigger with it, having a bigger mission. And that's what I'm all about with poker. So a little background of me. I am from upstate New York, Syracuse. Formerly, before my poker life, I was in the Army. So I kind of went to college, went into the Army. I got sold the American dream: go to college, get good grades, do well in athletics, and go to college, get a good job, white picket fence, all that stuff. And so I went to the Army basically because I was lost. You know, I was looking for things outside of myself to give me a sense of who I was and a sense of purpose. And at that time, it was basically, sold. Oh, I went to West Point Military Academy. And so I get to go to this well-respected, prestigious academy. At the time, it was like number one in the world. So I get to go there. I get to have a job after. I get to be a military officer, and I get to have just my whole life planned out for me. And then also I get to have, everybody give me a sense of respect and admiration that I was looking for myself. And then, so West Point's 4 years, and then you have to serve 5 years in the Army after. West Point's pretty cool because it's a nostalgic environment. And then when I got to the Army, that's when it really hit me. This is my late 20s. I was married in the Army, and it did not vibe with me. Like, I just realized that the person that I felt I was and the person that I was trying to be they were at odds with one another. And so I realized that I was kind of selling out who I am, I was basically selling out and giving the world the opportunity to, like, we're going to decide who Dave is. And it didn't fit with me. So toward the end of my time in the Army, I got I was frustrated. I was angry. I was lost, felt alone. Even though I was married, I have family and friends, I just felt alone. I didn't know who I was. And so literally the day that I could get out of the Army, most most guys from West Point will stay. There's like extra 3 months you could stay to get your GI Bill qualified. And I was like, hell no, I'm done with that. So got out of the Army the day I could, and packed my truck and drove from Augusta, Georgia to Las Vegas. And when I was in the Army, I was playing a lot of poker. That was like the one thing that I just loved poker. I loved my family had a little bit, Italian gambling sort of stuff, played penny poker in my grandma's basement. And then, so I had a little bit of that, and I was playing while I was in the Army. I was flying to Vegas, or I was playing in the barracks. I almost got actually kicked out of West Point because I was hosting games in the barracks. And that's not looked very highly upon. And so that was the only thing that I was like really inspired about when I left the Army. So I was like, packed my truck, I drove straight across the country to Vegas. And that started my journey basically I thought it was a journey of like, I'm going to go play poker and do something fun. And it was actually a journey of like, I'm going to find out who I am through poker.
Incredible. So finding out who you are through poker, that wasn't the plan, but that's where we ended up. Can you share everything you shared? Amazing. Very, very similar stories. Not that I was in the military, but relatable. So what did that journey look like next? So the spiritual playouts that were coming from poker. They don't seem to go hand in hand. So how does that connect?
Yeah. So, my first 5, 6 years of poker, so I got to Vegas in 2000, and spirituality didn't come around until maybe 2018 or so. So I went through 5 years of basically, kind of just bouncing around, trying to figure out myself. But, just I had this identity like I am a poker player, but my results weren't matching up with who I thought I was. So I actually got another job in there somewhere. I basically came to Vegas and I just lost. I had like maybe 20,000 that I brought with me, and it was gone in maybe 6 months or something like that. And I just really quickly found out that I wasn't as good at poker as I thought I was. So what happened was I kind of had to come to grips with this identity of like, well, I think I'm a good poker player, or I know I'm like capable of playing good poker, but then like the results and everything was like showing up as like literally I'm a loser. I suck. Like I hate my life. Like so all that stuff was coming up that poker was reflecting back to me. That was stuff that was already in me all along. That when we go and get a job or we get in a relationship or like we have something on the outside to tell us who we are. So when I'm in the army, it's easy to be like, this is my job. I get up every morning, I do my fitness, I do these tasks throughout the day, and then I go to bed at night and I get a paycheck. And it's like, this is who I am because those are the habits that I'm doing throughout the day. Well, then when you take all the safety net away and then you just are playing poker, and poker is a very dog eat dog world, and it probably more so than maybe any other profession. I mean, entrepreneurship is like that a lot. You'll get a very distinct reflection of who you are. So my results were just telling me, well, it was reflecting back to me the beliefs that I held about myself. So I'm a loser. I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. And so I didn't know that that was happening. I was just like seeing the results and then just beating up on myself and listening to a voice of judgment in my head tell me, you're a piece of shit and you're not good enough and nobody likes you and you'll never make it and all that stuff. So that was about, kind of 5 years of that. And then got married in there around 2000 or 2018 is when I met my two kids. At least my baby mom, we're split up now, but I met her by some like a chance encounter to an emotional intelligence course, and we met. And she got pregnant 6 weeks after I met her. So it was very like the universe is like, this is the path you're going. So we had two beautiful kids. We have two beautiful kids, but our relationship was codependent. It was trauma based, and it fell apart pretty quickly. So we had two kids, and then we split up and divorced, and it was extremely painful. So there was more pain for me coming out of like you always make the wrong decision. She doesn't even love you. You're never good enough. Like no matter how well, no matter how much you did, no matter how much effort you put into the relationship, it just didn't work. So I was getting more of that back to me. So that was 2018. And that's when I met a friend of mine hooked me up with a coach that he has, she's a sex and addiction counselor is her background. She has a great story. She would actually be someone amazing for you to interview as well. Her name is Tori, but her and I started working together, and she was coaching me basically on getting through my divorce and learning who I was and everything. And then she invited me to a plant medicine ceremony that she partakes in every once in a while. And so that was my first brush with spirituality. Went to the ceremony and I didn't know what it was at all. And at that point, I didn't really have any connection to spirituality. So I was super nervous and super scared. I built such rapport with Tori that I trusted her. And she really kind of like underplayed it. She was like, "Oh, you should come to this thing. It's this really beautiful ceremony. Everybody's there is awesome. I think it'd be really great for you." And I was just like, I remember thinking like, "Oh, like something within me is like, dude, this is like," because you have to surrender control. You don't have to, but if you don't surrender control, then that's when you have, bad trips and stuff like that. So I knew that there was a part of me or an identity or beliefs that I was going to have to surrender to show up to this and to transform into where I was going. So I just went and I had such a profound experience. I met a shaman from Miami who I fly out to Vegas and we do ceremonies every once in a while. And that was really like my foot in the door to the spiritual community. And and then realizing that, okay, something within me has to shift if I'm going to like play poker in the way that I want it to play. And, a lot of poker it's just strategy based. So it's like, this is what you do with this hand in this situation. And This is now there's algorithms that create charts, and you study these charts, and they tell you if you're in this position with this hand, you do this, and this is the sizing you bet. And so a lot of people are memorizing these charts to tell them what to do. And so they're just like replicating this pattern over and over again. But it really takes the instincts and the intuition out of the game. Like if you go back and look 20 years ago where poker was, it was just a bunch of guys sitting at the table, and it's like trying to figure each other out. And Rounders was based on that. Basically, the main character for Rounders is he goes in the room and he's in there for 5 minutes and he knows what everybody has. And he's never seen these people before ever. And poker players have, they're like, oh my God, that would be so cool. But nobody actually believes that it's true. But beyond the strategy that people choose at the table is this, it's like what's happening underneath the surface, like what's happening emotionally, what's happening with their beliefs. And we know now through emotional intelligence that our preconceptions or our beliefs, they reflect in our thoughts. So the thoughts we choose come from the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. And then when we choose thoughts, that has us choose behaviors. And then when we choose behaviors, those behaviors get a payoff somewhere in the cycle. And then when we get the reward or the payoff for that behavior, it confirms the belief that we hold about ourselves. And so what I was seeing in my early years in poker was these beliefs that I held about myself getting confirmed through poker. And so I have a partner in Poker with a Purpose, my buddy Sasha, that I met back in 2013, and we've been on this journey together. And he and I did a bunch of emotional intelligence training, and that's when we really started to dive into like, oh, okay, well, if I want to be a great poker player, I got to change my beliefs, not who I am. I got to change the beliefs that aren't working for me so that I can create the beliefs that do work for me, who I want to be and how I see myself showing up in the world.
Yeah. Amazing. That's a lot. That's amazing. That's actually,
I know there's a lot.
yeah, but that everything you just shared about how the mind works, and of course, this was your journey from personal to poker. This is applicable to your personal own inner reflection. It's the same thing that you just shared. Also tied into your career, your relationships, the relationships you have with your kids, your families, and our choices that we make around our health. And of course, I always tie it to that because I think without your health, it's hard to do any of the other things. And you can't really start your health journey, or you can try. We probably all have heard of or experienced it ourselves where we have some sort of health start where maybe we do hire a trainer or we start some fad diet. We start to see the mirror of all those negative beliefs and those negative thoughts and those ideas. And then quickly we're out of it, right? So we tried the trainer for 2 weeks, it didn't work. We tried the fad diet for 2 weeks, it didn't work. We tried celery juice and it didn't work. All of it works and none of it works if you don't first deal with what's going on inside of you. And so, though I'm not a therapist, though I'm not leading plant-based ceremonies, I do want to help people try to at least start there. And sometimes I also think that fitness can be the gateway to starting to understand, because if you have no sense of awareness of even your mind to your body, then you don't even know what's underneath beyond. So before your plant ceremony, you had no awareness of the reflections that were being thrown at you. You probably thought, like most people, that life was just unfair, treating you, in some type of way, or that you just deserve it, earn it, whatever. The weird thoughts that we're not even so aware of yet. Can you share some examples that you started to notice, oh, this is why my poker game is starting to look like this because of what's going on here?
Yeah, so the crux of emotional intelligence training is that everything is a mirror. So what you see in your reality is a mirror, and that we are taking the religious context out of things, we are our own gods. We actually create our environment based on the beliefs that we hold, right? When we're young, our beliefs are created for us by our parents, and at that time we're unconscious. So we hope that the people like guiding us are conscious and are doing their best to create consciousness within us. But this is how we see trauma and pain and stuff passed through families, is because people are not conscious of the beliefs they hold, and then they pass them on to people. So the crux of emotional intelligence training is realizing that everything is a mirror. So what you're seeing is something that you've created based on something you believe. So it was just really a combination of me and my buddy Sasha doing this emotional intelligence work and then being like, wait, why is poker no different? Or how is poker any different than anything else? And so we're like, all right, well, if that's the case, then what we're seeing in poker is reflection. So then we just started looking within. And so, as you said, we're not always conscious of what we think and what we feel. And we just think that's like, we create an identity around it. For example, you say like, I'm sick and tired of blah, blah, blah. And then you're not realizing that that's just a thought. Like you can choose another thought in that moment. So what we do is we think that it's an identity. Okay, well, I'm tired, or I can't commit to a fitness routine, or I'm just not the person who eats healthy, or whatever it may be. And then you don't realize like, well, that's a thought that I've accepted because that's how I was in the past. And I'm choosing to accept that as who I am, and I'm choosing to accept that in the present moment as what my reality is. Because ultimately in the present moment, we have the power to choose any thought that we want to. And so if we are saying something and we're not conscious that we chose that thought, then it's unconscious, and it's that we're creating identity around that thought. So the way it shows up at the poker table.
So I'll give one that I was watching your YouTube
Yeah.
videos, and I think this one's very relatable, and you were
Mhm.
tying it obviously to poker, is the fears. So we're not aware of whatever fear is coming up, but the action is familiar. Usually the action is you just don't do the thing. Like you have the thought of, oh, maybe having a trainer would be nice, or maybe learning poker would be fun, or maybe I should sign up for that competition. And then what we're not aware of is whatever fear clicks on, right? Is like, no, we should not do that because of X, Y, and Z. Usually something that happened in the past is coming up and we don't want to deal. So we just don't try the new job. We don't try to learn a new skill. We don't try to work with the trainer because it didn't work in the past. So let's use fear. That's a common one.
Yes, we each have a comfort zone, and the comfort zone is the patterns of behavior and thought that we choose because this is who we are. This is our identity. And so at the poker table, we have a comfort zone also. And we have these different thought patterns that come out in the moment. The way I like to think about it is there's this pendulum, an emotional pendulum swinging from one side to the other. And it swings back and forth from the need to play it safe. Like, I don't have enough money. And ultimately, I don't have enough money, or I'm not good enough, is a reflection of I don't love myself enough. Right. So why don't we try to start something, try to start a business or whatever, is I'm not good enough. And why am I not good enough? Because I don't love myself enough, because nobody will believe in me because I don't believe in myself. So it's ultimately a reflection of I don't love myself. And so you have this one side that's like, I need to play it safe because I don't have enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough love. I'm not worthy. And then you have this other side of the pendulum, which is like need to prove yourself. And it's actually a reflection of the same belief. Both sides don't truly love themselves. This side acts it out by playing it safe and staying in the comfort zone, because the comfort zone is safe. At least here, I know that this is comfortable and safe, and whatever out there is scary. So I'm just going to play it safe. And that means, like, poker wise, playing small pots, not being aggressive, getting attached to a hand. So somebody makes a hand, and then you're like, okay, I got a really good hand. And then you hold on to it, even though evidence in the environment says you need to fold, bro. So you'll know, like, instinctively, like, okay, I played a bunch of poker. I know that I have to fold here. And then this thought will kick in that's like, but what if what if he's bluffing, or what if he has this, or what if conversation kicks in. And then so you call, and then you go, oh, see, I knew it. I knew I was right. I knew I'm not good enough. I knew that I don't have the skills to play good poker. I knew. So in the action, you confirm the belief that you hold about yourself, which is, I'm not good enough. I don't love myself. And then this side of the pendulum is, I need to prove myself. This is like Mike Tyson type stuff. Mike Tyson, greatest fighter of all time, arguably. But he even admits now that it came from fear. So you see this guy who's just like living in this tremendous amount of fear, like literally fighting for his life in the ring, and is just going to like beat the crap out of anyone, because that side is like, one side is like the dog that's sitting in the corner, like learned helplessness, like I'm going to play it small. And this guy's like, I'm trying to fight my way out of this box. Like, don't come near me. Don't touch me. I'll just destroy you. I'll beat you up. I'll do whatever. And so at the poker table, this guy is like fighting for pots that he doesn't belong in, like playing way too many hands, just like getting triggered by the smallest things at the table, because everything to him is a reflection of like, I'm in fear and I have to defend myself because I'm not safe. And so then when people are just doing things at the poker table, like normal things like raising or betting, and they're just doing it because that's what they're doing, it has nothing to do with you. But then this side of you is like, he's attacking us. Like, we got to defend ourselves. And then it ends up you playing a strategy that's not logically based, that's not anything. It's just emotionally based, emotionally defending yourself in the moment. And then afterwards, same thing. You go, what the heck did I just do? Like, I just blew through a whole bunch of money at the table to ultimately confirm the belief that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, all that stuff.
Okay. So you're seeing the pendulum swing. You're seeing how your decisions fall either on one side or the other. You've been doing this for a while, so it sounds like you've had enough practice to catch yourself in those thoughts, but you have to do it relatively quickly. How did you learn how to be able to do that so quickly in the moment? And then also, like, how does that also show up like in outside of poker? That same like catching the pendulum swing.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So it's a couple different things because number one, back to fitness and diet and all that stuff, it's like making sure, first of all those things are in alignment, because if you're living in a state of survival, it's very hard to see what is happening. It's very hard to be conscious of what's happening. So that means like if you're eating too much processed food or sugar, if you're drinking or like you're not exercising, your energy is not flowing in your body the way it should, then you literally can't think clearly and you're in a state of survival. So then you can't choose your thoughts consciously. So having all those pieces in place, that's when I started working with Paul. Yeah, Paul and I lift 3 times a week, and he's my guy that I know. We have accountability system where it's like I show up 3 times a week and we work out, and I feel great in my body. And then it's like I have a friend who does. He helps me interpret my Aura Ring stats. So it's like, am I getting enough sleep? Is my HRV where it should be? Am I eating right? And so, checking in on my health. My relationships, do the relationships I have in my life support the vision that I'm trying to create for myself? Are these people that are conscious, like constantly pouring love into me as I'm pouring love into them? Or are they people that are like taking from me and I'm constantly pouring out and then I'm empty and I'm in survival? So having all those pieces in place, first and foremost, is the best foundation. And that's somewhere in the poker world that like poker falls short. People in the poker world fall short of that because the reason people get into poker is like, it's easy. I don't have it to, like, nobody tells me where to be, what to wear. I get to do whatever I want to. I can play late. I can do all this. So the context of how they got into poker is like, this is going to be easy and I want the easy way out. But then you're going to get that reflection. So back to the question. So having all those things in place, first and foremost, is important so that you can think and see clearly.
I agree. You need all of those. And even just starting there can be very overwhelming. So for the person that may be listening to this and they're like, you mean I got to work on all that? Like, it seems very overwhelming. So where do you, or what would you recommend somebody starts of like, I don't feel like I have supportive relationships. I know I'm not eating very clean. I don't know what it means to be in survival mode, but I know I don't feel good. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first thing is just, start where you can start. The smallest thing matters. Some people might be reading a book. Some people might be just like looking at their running shoes and like, I don't want, and just put the shoes on and go run. Or it might be a tough conversation with a relative or a friend or a lover. So it's going to look different for everyone where you start, but it just means it's like start where you can start. Like your intuition will tell you, like everybody knows, everybody has that intuition, like, oh, like, and we have a question at the table that's kind of like our go-to question, and it's, what am I resisting? Whatever you're resisting tells you where the growth is, because we want to stay in the comfort zone. So if you say, what am I resisting? That's like the edge of the comfort zone. And that means if you step through that resistance, then you're expanding everything. And so what am I resisting might be you're looking at the running shoes and going, what am I resisting? I'm resisting putting those things on and going for a run. Okay, well, then that's where your growth is. Or for someone, it might be, what am I resisting? Well, my partner's been doing this, this, and this, and it's been really bothering me, and I'm not speaking my truth. And so I get to speak my truth, and that could be growth. And then, but the other thing also is, right, we're talking about the beliefs, is the reason that we choose what actions we choose is because of the beliefs we hold underneath. So I would recommend to anyone listening to do some sort of emotional intelligence training. Nowadays, they have centers everywhere. I started with Choice Center here in Las Vegas. It's they have leadership courses there. You just go and take courses. They have a discovery course, a breakthrough course. They have relationships course. There's a bunch of, I just went to a Tai Chi place a couple months ago that they offered a a course about identifying your beliefs and shifting them and getting the energy moving. So there's all sorts of emotional intelligence tools and classes and teachers and everything out there. And you just find one and you go. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. Find another one. But at least try something and then go from there. Analysis paralysis. So if you're not doing something, you're staying where you are. If you do something, it might not work out, but at least you're a step further.
Yes.
And those courses will help you identify what beliefs you hold about yourself. And then once you take that step to start realizing what beliefs you hold, then you'll start realizing what things in your reality are holding those beliefs in place. And then so once you be like, okay, well, I don't believe I'm unworthy of love. I actually believe that I'm powerful and worthy and capable, and I deserve people that pour into me and all that. So once you start believing that about yourself, then you go, okay, this person doesn't really belong in my life anymore. And then, so it is a long journey. It's a journey that you choose. It's not like I do this on the weekends. It's like you either choose to live that lifestyle of no, I'm going to be the best version of myself, and I'm going to choose myself. I'm going to choose to love myself as much as I know how, in every way that I know how, in every way that I possibly can. And you do it every day, in every moment. If you try to do it on the weekends, it won't work.
No. Eventually the weekdays will catch up to you. Yeah.
And it's it starts with us each individually, but it's a huge mission because humanity right now is really in a deficit of love and joy and gratitude. We're constantly at war with each other, politicians bickering back and forth, neighbors fighting with each other, families don't get along. There's no love. There's no joy in families. And really, if you look at the world collectively, there's no joy.
Yeah.
There's pockets of joy and people try, but my parents grew up in a generation where their parents just worked their whole lives, and then they worked their whole lives, and then they didn't realize it's well, when did I ever have time for me? And so when you have generations upon generations of people giving away their power and choosing not to love themselves because I got to go work to make money and the money will make me happy. And then wait a minute, 60 years later, the money never made me happy. And this life never made me happy. And that may be some people's story and may not be other people's. So it really is a huge mission that we each get to look within and say, okay, well, what am I doing today to create joy for myself, to love myself, to be grateful? And then once you do that and you fill up your own cup, then you can turn around and fill up other people's cup. And then the whole world it's actually a new earth is what Eckhart Tolle talks about. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. When you pick the small thing and you start taking the action, that's when you start to maybe notice the thoughts come up again, right? Either the fear or the self-doubt, or I knew this wasn't going to work for me. I knew this. That is your moment for growth of changing those thoughts in the moment. You want to be able to catch them when you're trying something new. And like he said, it's a journey that we're on for the long haul. And so it still happens to this day. So for me and for him and for the rest of us, I'm sure it's going to continue to happen. But that's where you're growing is I tried something new. It didn't work. I realized I didn't like it. And then not letting it be a reflection of you. That's where the power is of saying, okay, at least so instead of, oh, this didn't work, I ended up feeling like a fool, whatever you start saying to yourself. You can say, actually, I'm very proud that I tried something new. And even though this wasn't it, now I can see that there's more opportunities or whatever. So it has to come from you and it has to be very authentic to you. You can't just repeat what I'm saying here. But what really works is when you start changing the way you talk to yourself in those moments of when you tried something new. So do you want to share a little bit about how that maybe has come up for you recently in poker? I'm sure it still comes up, right? You haven't completely mastered the game, right?
How about last night? Is that recent enough for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so the key, and this is what I work on, is actually listening to and hearing out what is playing out in the story that's playing out in your head. Because that's all it is a story. And it's a story based on the beliefs and based on the conditioning. And it might be the story that your parents told you, or it might be a story that I already had this kind of wound of I don't feel good about myself. I'm unworthy, whatever that wound. I don't love myself. And I had a teacher in high school, literally my English teacher. She's like, "Oh, David, where did you apply to college?" And I was like, "Oh, I really want to go to Duke and Notre Dame." And she goes, "Oh, don't you think you should apply somewhere a little more your speed?" So I was like, aren't you a teacher? Like, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? Right. But to me, I was just like, oh my God, I am not good enough, you know? And then actually, I realized I went like this. That's not good. We don't want that. We don't want that in there. So, you know, those beliefs can be confirmed anywhere. And if we don't realize like that's her perspective, that's not me, then we'll absorb it and keep it. So yeah, it's something that I still work on. I mean, every session, it's something I struggle with is like actually what I work on now is, you know, just actually hearing out the voice. So for example, last night I played a session and I played really well. I played, except for one hand, I played every hand like exactly the way that it was meant to be played. I bet when I was supposed to bet. I chose good sizings. I folded when I was supposed to fold, or I checked when I was supposed to check. I just did everything great. And just some hands didn't work out because the other guy hit a better hand. And I was like, okay, well, now he's not folding. So I gotta give up here. I got to let him have it. And, oh, this spot, like I was going to go for this, but this guy hit something. So, you know, sometimes it's just like that. And then, so I played really well, but then I just left the table because I lost, you know, 5,000 or whatever. And I left and I'm just like frustrated and angry and disappointed and like, man, like how come like I just play well and nothing ever works out for me? And when it's like, oh, okay, there's old story popping up again. Like, okay, well, what did I do? All right, so what's the old story telling me? Like, all right, well, what's going on? Talk to me. It's like, all right, well, I'm frustrated. Like, we come here to win money. I deserve to win. Like, we played our best, and these guys just keep getting lucky. And like, I'm frustrated and angry. It's like, all right, I hear you. Like, you're angry. It's okay to be angry. Like, well, did you play your best? Yeah, I did play my best. It's like, all right, well, is it going to work out every time? No, it's not going to work out every time. And you know, part of one thing me and Sasha say now is, you know, giving and receiving are part of the same cycle, and it happens at poker. You know, poker players, we describe it as winning and losing, which is actually like a conversation in the game that I'd like to shift to giving and receiving, because you can't receive if you don't give. And in poker, the way that it comes out is like if you don't give action. So if you're sitting at the table and you play really tight and you're not playing any hands, people will say like, I'm not playing any hands versus him because I know that if I lose a pot to him, the money's not coming back. So in poker and in life, you got to give. You have to give love to receive love. You got to give poker chips to receive poker chips. So some sessions you're just going to lose, or what we are now terming as give. And you got to give because if you just went and won every time, number one, it wouldn't be fun. And number two, like nobody's going to have any money left.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like hearing out the voice and then reframing it. And you're right, taking like realizing that you have the power to shift your reality and shift what you believe in the actual moment. You know, this is stuff Tony Robbins works on. There's a video I watch. He does like priming, and it's basically just he does like a bunch of exercises for like 30 seconds or a minute, and then he sits and he closes his eyes, and then he's just like thinks of three things he's grateful for, and just like really embraces gratitude, and then visualizes like, how do I want this outcome to go, or how do I want to feel at the end of this podcast, or how do I want to feel at the end of this poker game, and then realizing you like literally within 2 minutes you could shift the entire way that you feel about yourself and about life.
Yeah.
But if you don't listen to it, then the thought pattern keeps going.
Yeah. So this is really good. This is like so relatable. I have an example of my own that just happened almost exactly the same. Well, in fitness world. But one thing that I do is to this day, I don't like working out. And what's helped is when I'm in a workout that's particularly challenging and I know it and I feel it, I practice gratitude in that moment. So it's like as soon as I hear the thoughts of like, why am I even doing this? This one kind of sucks. I don't really want to keep pushing here. I switch it in that moment to just starting to be grateful for the fact that my body can do this, grateful for the strength that I'm gaining, grateful that I'm pushing through even though I don't want to. That's actually pretty cool that I said I wasn't going to do the fifth set and I did. So things like that. I don't know where that came from, but I've been doing it so long that I forgot that that was one of the new programmings that I put in my own brain at some point. That I started just kind of resharing that with my clients. A tip to whoever's listening is try it even in your own life over the next day. if you give yourself within the next 24 hours, you're guarantee you're going to find an example. You're going to be like, oh, Ariel and Dave said, this is a moment where I notice myself saying something that feels like contracted or feels negative or feels heavy or doesn't feel good, doesn't make me feel good about myself or the world around me. That's a moment where you could be like, oh, this is one that in the moment I can actually change it. It could be in traffic. It could be a text that upset you. It could be frustration with technology. It could be a workout. It could be, you'll notice it. Every single human over the next 24 hours will have a moment where they can course correct their thoughts. So try it. And if you want, let us know. Let us know how it goes. And so back to what you're saying, we're still doing that. We're still course correcting quicker. And so just like with a muscle in our body, you have to let it tear to gain better strength. And so the more you practice it, the easier it is going to be and the easier it'll be to catch those moments. And in some ways it gets even harder. You realize even heavier things that you don't realize are coming up. And that's okay. That's like part of noticing more about yourself. Yeah. So really good.
What you're talking about is priming. This is like that old psychology experiment they did where they had people dribbling a basketball. Like they had a bunch of people on a court dribbling a basketball, and they're like, count how many times they dribbled a basketball. And then they had a guy in a monkey suit like walk through the thing, and then nobody sees the guy in the monkey suit except like 1 out of 100 people or something, right? So, right, because the brain is primed. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. So in the same way, Joe Dispenza does a lot of this is, you can ask yourself when you wake up first thing in the morning, like, okay, today I want to be conscious of things I say that are not loving to myself. And you will notice every single thing that you say because you're priming your brain for it. In the same way, you could be like, I want to notice every red car on the road today. And you'll see all the red cars. You won't pay attention to the white ones, but you'll see the red ones. So you can do that basically with your thoughts and your beliefs.
Yeah. And our phones are actually designed that same way. That's how they created algorithms. So basically, it's if you see a cat picture on Instagram and the phone will know, oh, they stayed on the cat picture for more than 10 seconds. Let's show her more cat pictures. So our brains are doing that already. So now let's just be more aware of it. I know that you also do coaching. You've helped people kind of do that same, recognizing their thought patterns.
I had a 12-week course where we had a few students and we kind of took them through 12 weeks of ego consciousness, identifying limiting beliefs, and then like how does this relate to the poker table. So it's kind of a 12-week course, but a lot of it is like you said, is just in the present moment. It's just noticing, like having somebody with the skills and the awareness, or not. They don't even need skills and the awareness because we all have the power within us, right? Is just say you're Joe Schmo and you're in a relationship with Sally, you just tell Sally, hey, listen, I am trying to be more loving to myself. Or see, even the way that I say that is not, it's not I'm trying to be more loving to myself. It's, I read this in Atomic Habits the other day, right? The person who says, I'm trying to quit smoking is different than a person that says, I am not a smoker. So when you see yourself saying, I'm trying something, it means that I'm a smoker and I'm trying to quit. And if you say, I'm not a smoker, then you don't smoke. So one is attachment to the identity, right? So you tell your spouse or your partner, your friends, whatever, hey, I would love some support, like identifying some behaviors or some thoughts or things that I say or do that are out of alignment with like my own self-love, my own joy, my own gratitude. And so then, like me, right, I have Sasha's my poker coach. And so if I go to the session and I lose and I get frustrated and I leave, he goes, okay, hold up the mirror. Dave, you're being frustrated right now. Like, where's the frustration coming from? Like, look within and see what belief do you hold about yourself, or what expectation or what attachment do you have that is like being reflected in your being frustrated that doesn't serve you any longer, that you can let go of so that you can step into gratitude for how well you played and for the whole journey, right? Because one poker session is just this, and the whole journey is like, you're going to lose. The best players in the world lose. Everybody loses. Everybody gives. So really the coaching that me and Sasha do is just based on being present with the person in the moment and them telling us what they're going through or what hand they played or what story it is, and just us being able to see, because we've done our own work, what beliefs are coming up, what behaviors, what patterns are showing up that they yet can't see themselves, but that we're helping them identify and choose new patterns.
Yeah. Really good. Really good. And that is, to me, the whole journey. Like whether you're doing it on the, I feel like a broken record, but it's very simple, not easy, right? So it's once you get it, it's like, oh, it's literally rinse and repeat. Whether you're pursuing poker, whether you're pursuing fitness, whether you're trying to build your relationships, everything is a mirror, everything is just a reflection of you. And so even the pursuit itself is in some way at some point is going to be the reflection. And so it's funny because just like you shared, you chose poker to kind of run away from whatever it was, right? Only to find more mirrors and reflections. And so life will continue to do that. And so whatever you do choose, allow it to be a mirror. And so what would you say to that person that does keep choosing more so to avoid and distract and deflect versus actually like use it to look within?
Yeah, by the way, can I use you as an example real quick? Because you said
Sure.
something that I don't know if you said it. You said something unconsciously. You said, I feel like a broken record.
Oh. I
But
feel
I bet,
like, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. Choose something new. Because broken records, I don't know why I want to feel like a broken record.
That's true. I don't know. In that case, I don't know. How would I replace that? I guess I do feel like I'd repeated myself, but it's something that needs to be repeated. So it's not a broken record.
Yeah,
It's
so
something that needs to be
well,
shared again.
yeah, I'm seeing you as a inspired and passionate interviewer.
Thanks.
So
Thank
I
you.
feel inspired and passionate. I feel full of joy and inspiration. Yeah.
Yay. Thank you for that. Thank you. You're right.
You're
It
welcome.
was damn worth repeating, people.
They're quick. So you gotta be on top of it because it'll be like, I feel like a broken record. And then like, who the heck came up with that? And like, what were they feeling at the time? And like, why did they compare themselves to a record? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And why are we
And now
broken?
here I am 80 years later repeating it. It's like, I don't even know this person.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you for that. Look at that, coaching on the spot.
Oh,
If you
thank
want to
you.
learn poker or get some coaching on more conscious awareness through poker, Dave is your guy. Caught me in the moment.
What
So yes,
was and tell me what your question was again, because I was thinking about broken record.
right. What was my question? Oh man, it was in
Thinking about
regards to
advice.
the people. Yes. So this one I feel like is very relatable, where we are distracting ourselves and deflecting through like the next hobby, the next project, the next business, the next relationship. And so, what would be your advice to that person that's like, maybe it is time to start looking within? How did they get to that place?
Yeah, start where you are again. For me, after I split up with my baby mama, Tori recommended basically just like sit with myself because I was trying to date to distract myself, and I was trying to play poker to win to feel better about myself. And she's just like, you just need to like sit and just be with yourself and like feel everything because we're so used to in our society thinking. Excuse me. We're so used to thinking because that's how we've been trained and taught probably from scientific revolution or like Renaissance age. It's like we got away from what our intuition is. It's like, let me teach you how to think. And then we're thinking instead of feeling. And so she's like, I would just really recommend you just sitting with yourself as much as possible and just feeling everything, feeling your frustration, your grief, your anger, rage, disappointment, just feeling all that stuff. And so what you resist persists. So if you resist being sad, then you will literally become sad because sadness is an energy. It's an emotion. It comes in waves. And so if you resist feeling like, because that's held in place by belief, right? Men are supposed to be tough. Men can't cry, or I can't cry in public, or whatever the belief is that you've been taught from someone that's like, no, you have to show up in society in a way that's inauthentic because if you don't, then people won't like you. And it's like, why do I want them to like me anyway? I want to like myself. So when you sit with it, if you resist it and you say, I don't want to feel this, then it's going to stay there and you'll literally become sad in your posture and your face. And like, you'll become sad even though you're not actively crying. So when you give yourself permission to like feel it and let it out and cry, then it's like, ooh, okay, well now my my energy is different. It's because now the energy is actually flowing the way it's supposed to be flowing. So that was the big thing, was sitting with myself and just feeling everything. And I hated it. I was like, I want to go play poker. I want to go get in a relationship. And yeah, that was super profound for me. And it doesn't mean like if you're in a relationship now, like split up so that you can be by yourself. It just means spend time to yourself, spend time for self-care, for self-love, for gratitude. Like take time to yourself where you normally distract yourself with something else and just like sit with yourself and be like, how you doing, Dave? Like, you know, like I like to imagine like little Dave, my little 3-year-old, 4-year-old Dave that felt alone and lost and not looked after, cared for, and unloved. And I like talk to him and I'm like, what do you need today? How are you feeling? Like I literally check in with him in the same way I check in with my kids. And then like once that little guy feels cared for, then you're capable of anything. But if he feels like neglected or whatever, then he's going to be playing poker for you and he'll be like screaming and throwing a tantrum, or he'll be like hiding in the corner and just then you'll be, you know, you'll be disintegrated. So by doing that, you create a more whole, then you actually, because what we do is we seek on the outside to, I want to feel understood. I want to feel loved. I want to feel joy. So we look for it on the outside instead of looking within and talking to little Dave and making sure that he feels loved and cared for and worthy and understood. And then when you do that, you don't need anybody else to understand you because you understand yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. So that's like a practical tool that probably sounds a little woo-woo, but it's not. So it's actually, they even do it in like therapy and it's like inner child work. But what it is, all it is just sitting, like you said, sitting with yourself in the uncomfortable emotions. And as he shared, it's going to feel the hardest in the beginning. It's like he said, where when you're sad, you try to ignore being sad, only to find out that it just keeps showing up in the weirdest ways, right? And so now it's just heavier. Or you can even see it with anger, where you're trying to not be angry, and then all of a sudden you're reacting to the barista at Starbucks, or that person on the road, or your family member that just walked in that you haven't seen in a week. So it starts coming out in like weird ways. And so to stop having it show up in weird ways, the tool is to start sitting with it, addressing it, taking care of it with no judgment, right? Just as if it was a 3-year-old in front of you. We shouldn't approach them like, stop being angry. You wouldn't want to feel approached that way. Or, what are you doing? This is so terrible. I'm so mad at you. And even if those feelings are coming up, keep approaching it with grace and trusting that you're going to get to the other side of it. And it does take practice. It's just like when you first play poker, your first game is probably your worst game, right? When you first get into fitness, your first workout is the hardest. Oh, first game's not the worst game?
It was my best.
Or I guess you get the lucky hand, right? Yeah, so your first workout can be the hardest. When you're trying to learn a new language, that first session feels the worst, right? And so this is just another thing where it's going to feel the hardest at first, and it gets easier. So learning how to practice it in smaller ways, like when you're at the grocery store and you have that guilt around buying the pizza, then you can talk to yourself, well, what if we just don't be guilty? What if we just enjoy the pizza and then trust that we're going to choose better next time because we want to also eat healthy, right? So then both can be true. You don't have to stay in perpetual guilt of like, I always choose bad. So it takes time, it takes work, and it gets easier with everything else in time.
Well said.
Yeah, thank you. Yay. So, David, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I believe and pray that everybody that listens to it is going to receive some pretty useful, practical tools and step into a new journey of feeling better in their bodies, physically, mentally, spiritually. So, everybody, thank you for watching. Enjoy your journey. We're both here to support you, whether it's on the fitness side, the spiritual side, the poker side. I'll put his information below and some other resources as well. And thank you all.
Thank you, Ariel.